I am very, very happy to be invited to come and speak again. Today, I'm going to be talking about a very important issue, which is really specifically how AI is actually changing the world of work, with a particular focus also on the developing economies. I have actually been quite interested in the subject of artificial intelligence for a long time. I did a PhD in AI from 1997 to 2000. So it is almost 26 years ever since I completed my PhD work in AI. But AI has changed in many ways. And I think there are two big ways in which AI has changed. The first one is that we have much more data today than ever before. The second one is that we have much more computational power in our hands and also in our data centers than we have ever had before. Because of these two big changes, AI now, which used to be a field that was only of special interest to people in academia and the technical part of certain industries, has become a household name. And the big question that has been asked, and that continues to be asked, is what is AI going to do to production, industrial production, to productivity? And then, of course, we know that in the production spaces of all sorts, whether it is in the private sector, whether it is in the government sector, whether it is in the manufacturing sector, whether it is in call centers, across the board, is increasingly adopting AI. And this question of when will we see the productivity gains of AI in the big macro numbers that we see, growth, and so on and so forth. In order to answer this question, I went back to the famous work that was produced in 1987 by Nobel Prize winner Robert Solow, who was asking a question. He introduced what is called productivity paradox, which we can contextualize it to AI. That there is always a time lag between the introduction of technology and that technology actually having a meaningful impact on productivity. So this, of course, brings to the fourth a very important issue, which is technology itself is not enough. The introduction of technology itself is not enough. For this technology to have impact on the foundations of productivity, certainly if I'm talking about AI here, there has to be a number of issues. I will call them foundational enablers that will need to be put into place. The first one is digital infrastructure. We know digital infrastructure starts from the semiconductor infrastructure itself, the computing infrastructure, the data gathering infrastructure, the data analysis infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And some of this infrastructure can be small, which is our handheld devices, and they can be big, which are data centers that are located in many parts of our world, and there are emerging trends where they would like to locate these data centers in places that have huge implications on our environment, such as the undersea ecosystem. The second thing is language support. And the third thing is human capability. I think this is very, very important. Because when you think about AI in production, I think there are three ways in which you can implement it in production. I think the first one is when it is only a human in production without any AI. The second one is when it is AI working alongside with humans. And the third one is when AI is working alone, when technology is working alone. And depending on where you are applying it, it matters what you need to do. But the big issue facing the global south when it comes to AI is really the issue of the digital divide. And the digital divide depends on some form of literacy. The first form of literacy is the ability to read and write. The second form of literacy is the ability to use and access technological devices. The third type of literacy is the ability to understand AI, what it is, what it can do, what are its limitations, and so on and so forth. So it is very important that to democratize this technology, we need to take into account of that. And I think AI has a double-edged impact on the labor markets. What do I mean? Firstly, AI will be able to bring productivity once we deal with the issue of the time lag between AI introduction and productivity gains, the good side of AI. The second one are the risks that will come with AI. So policymakers must be able to balance the benefits of this technology with the risks of this technology. Now, when we contextualize it within the labor markets, there is a big fear that AI is going to substitute human agency in production. And there are much studies have been done about what tasks, what jobs are going to be replaced by AI and what jobs are going to remain. I must confess, from what I have observed, I think there are two limitations on what I have observed. Firstly, we do not know how this technology is going to evolve going into the future. And secondly, we do not know all the limitations that it will encounter when it is deployed in production. We know some, but we don't know all. So this basically means if we were to try to think about what AI is doing, there is a little bit of risk, uncertainty. Some people think the impact of AI is that there are going to be fewer positions for humans overall, but with high pay for those who remain. That is just one hypothesis. Some people think there might be fewer positions overall, but because of this large number of people who have been displaced from the world of work, and some of them very, very highly skilled and are able to adapt, the labor size is going to increase. And if we were to take the issue of demand and supply, then the pay will actually decrease. So these are some of the issues, And if we go to the developing economies, much of the economy remains manual and informal. And for these workers, AI's, and this is a theory, is not necessarily a direct threat, but it could reshape livelihoods indirectly by altering markets, prices, and service delivery. But there is another added layer, which is that there are very few economies that are isolated from what is happening globally. And this necessarily means that even those labor-heavy industries that are located in some of our developing countries are going to be under threat, because even if they cannot afford AI, somebody else elsewhere will afford AI and automate and export to their market. So this is actually quite a difficult issue that we need to grapple with. And then, of course, AI is also altering the broader pathway through which countries grow. Historically, low-income nations advance through industrialization or outsourced services. Automation now erodes the labor cost advantage that made such models viable. For example, jobs in call centers, once hailed as promising source of youth employment, face rapid disruption by conversational AI. In other words, what may have worked to move from low to middle income status in the past may not necessarily work in the future. So at the same time, AI will heighten global demand for critical minerals, such as lithium, graphite, and rare earth elements, which are key inputs to the digital and green transitions. Developing economies could benefit from this resource demand, yet without strong governance, there are risks that this could become extractive, not transformative. And we should recall that these kinds of investments do not create many jobs themselves. Alarmingly, digital investment also remains highly concentrated. Between 2020 and 2024, 10 countries accounted for nearly 80% of all greenfield digital economy investment in the global south. The risk is clear. If we do not act, AI could actually widen the global inequality rather than narrow it. In my own country, South Africa, we have seen both the promise and the peril of technological change. Our unemployment rate remains stubbornly high at 31.4%, which is one of the highest in the world. Yet AI offers opportunities to reindustrialize, expand services, and enhance public administration. The economic potential of AI for South Africa is significant, with the International Science Council suggesting it could contribute up to 52 billion US dollars in economic gains by the year 2030. However, the structural conditions that determine who benefits from those gains are deeply uneven. While 75.7% of South Africans now have internet access, a gap of more than 20% separates urban and rural connectivity. This is precisely the divide that determines whether AI becomes a tool of inclusion or exclusion. In recent years, South Africa has been developing AI policies to respond to this challenge. In April 2024, the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies launched the National AI Plan, providing a roadmap to guide AI adoption. And then, of course, for those of you who probably have been reading through this development in my own countries, that policy has been withdrawn. It has been withdrawn because it was found that there were references that were generated by AI that simply do not exist. And I think this is very, very important for us to be able to highlight. That AI must not be used blindly. And if I were to invoke a term that those of us who have spent probably a great deal of time working on AI are accustomed to, AI is the so-called, the probably approximately correct model, which basically means there is always room for error in its design, in its architecture. And then, of course, despite all those limitations, failing to engage with AI risks technological marginalization. Across developing economies, the decisive factor will be human capital. Africa alone is set to undergo one of the fastest expansion in the working age population between 2025 and 2050. Its total population is projected to rise to as many as 2.5 billion by the middle of the century, accounting for more than half of all global population growth over that period. So effectively, harnessing the youth demographic dividend will boost the continent's GDP, but the dividend is not automatic. Only 9% of young Africans currently possess basic computer skills, and much of Africa's recent growth has been jobless growth, lacking the structural shifts needed to drive long-term development. Capitalizing on the convergence of AI and youth demographic could either be the continent's greatest opportunity or its most consequential missed one. So what kind of skills do we need to develop? AI will automate many routine tasks, but also amplify the value of uniquely human skills, creativity, problem solving, empathy, and judgment. Education systems must therefore evolve. They should move beyond rote learning towards critical thinking and cross-disciplinary understanding. Technical vocational training should integrate data skills and digital literacy. That is why I introduced a compulsory course on AI for all students when I was the president of the University of Johannesburg. AI upskilling and reskilling are no longer optional, but are economic necessities for those entering the workforce. Recent evidence from a youth skills survey in Nampula by my colleagues Beckel and Jones highlight the urgency of this transition. They found that fewer than 15% of young people in urban region regularly uses AI. Those who do, however, display significantly higher numeracy and literacy skills. This finding suggests that digital exposure is not just an outcome of education, but a driver of foundational learning itself. As AI tools become more embedded in daily life and work, such gaps in digital familiarity may determine who can benefit from and who or be displaced by technological change. For those already in the workforce, lifelong learning and inclusive access are essential And we should do this especially to support rural youth, women, and informal sector. But we need to govern this technology. To govern this technology, we need to ensure that we structure it so that we maximize the good things that come out of this technology and minimize the bad things that come out of this technology. There are issues about data ownerships that we need to deal with. There are issues about algorithmic bias, and you can divide that into two. First, avoidable algorithmic bias, and the second one, unavoidable algorithmic bias. One of it is that you can always build better language models in Chinese and English than many languages because you just have too many material that is already available, written and published to be used for training AI systems. And accountability, especially when you're putting it in the workforce. And of course, these principles of responsible AI, transparency, fairness, human oversight, are very important, and they need to be governed very, very carefully. And for me to govern this, you have to govern the data, you have to govern the algorithms that are used in AI, you have to govern the computing infrastructure, and you have to govern how AI is applied. And the way you govern this is by asserting our values, by changing the behavior of people who are using, people and organizations that are involved in AI, by creating incentive mechanisms to incentivize the good use of this technology, by developing policies and regulations around this technology, by developing standards at the international, at the regional, at the member state, as well as the industrial levels, by looking at the legislations around AI, and by creating the structures to govern this AI. One of such structures that was developed by the United Nations is the scientific scientific panel on AI. And of course, over the next 2 decades, AI's net impact on employment in developing economies may be modestly negative. And the constraint is not just technology, but capacity. Our institute, UNU WIDER, in Helsinki, research highlights this challenge. The challenge of young job seekers who were connected to digital platforms, the challenge of the technology that worked but the labor market did not, and informality, weak firm dynamics, and reliance on personal networks and the limited impact. And I think from here, there is a big lesson that we can actually be able to learn. That AI cannot substitute for structural reform. Without stronger domestic firms and better functioning labor markets, AI reinforces enclave growth that is capital intensive, foreign led, and weakly linked to local capability formation. In short, AI could become another mega project, impressive in scale, but with limited impacts for the poorest. And these structural challenges extend into the legal system. And in our book, Artificial Intelligence and the Law, which I co-authored with Mbedi from the University of Johannesburg, we argue that the labor law, regulation, and social protection systems are just as important as the technology itself in determining how AI impacts the future of work. AI is transforming workplaces faster than legal systems can respond, with a growing gap between the world of work that AI is creating and the legal frameworks designed to govern it. Legal systems must therefore adapt by extending protections to informal workers, ensuring fairness and transparency in AI-managed workplaces, and establishing clear safeguards for workers using AI. Now, how do we move forward? I think the first thing that we need to do is to take AI seriously. Every ministry, university, and research institute should explore how AI can advance national priorities. According to UNCTAD, fewer than a third of developing nations have national AI strategies, and most of these strategies are in the developed world. Secondly, we need to invest in infrastructure and skills, education, governance, computing infrastructure, algorithmic infrastructure, data infrastructure, infrastructure of analyzing and using data. Then the third thing is to empower the public sector. I also want to say that the private sector must be empowered. We tend to also think that the private sector has all the resources to empower themselves. The big companies do, but the small and medium enterprises also need to be empowered. The fourth thing that we need to do is to embed ethics and inclusivity into AI. And of course, most importantly, to connect AI to the real economy. And what is the role of UN and UNU in this regard? We have the Global Digital Compact that was adopted by the General Assembly that promotes an open, free, and secure and human-centered digital future. There is an independent international scientific panel on AI which was established to assess how AI is reshaping societies. United Nations University is establishing an institute in Bologna. And our institute, which is our host today, UNU Macau, has, and under the excellent leadership of Jingbo, Dr. Jingbo Huang, has absolutely exceeded my expectation with regards to the advancement of AI. And just recently, we launched a LinkedIn course in partnership with Microsoft, Responsible AI in a Global Context. And I am looking forward to seeing many of you registering for this course. It is free, and after you complete it, you get a certificate. You have to take a little bit of an exam, and then you get a certificate from United Nations University. On the 27th to 28th of November, there is going to be a UNU Global AI Network full members meeting in Macau. In conclusion, AI will neither save nor doom us. For developing economies, the goal is to integrate AI into inclusive and sustainable growth. The right investment in people, infrastructure, and governance, AI can become a catalyst for opportunity, helping overcome distance, scarcity, and inefficiency. Left to the market forces alone, AI may deepen inequality and reinforce dependency, echoing past patterns of extractive development. Then, of course, many of you, I encourage you to read our book on AI and conflict, which is also in Chinese. And then, of course, just recently, our book on artificial intelligence and the law was translated into Arabic, and it is going to be available in Chinese in the next few weeks. And many of the things that I talk about are also here. Please stay connected. And please we do have our free course on responsible AI in the global context. We have the English version, which you can be able to go through. And here is the QR code. Please copy it and register. And also, if you can be able to speak and understand Japanese, we have a Japanese version of it. Again, same course, same lecturer. I'm one of the lecturers, and many others, University of Tokyo, and many in our institutes. But same course. So thank you very much.